All right, today we are diving deep into one of history's biggest cold cases. It all kicks off with the shocking overnight collapse of the Knights Templar, the most powerful, wealthiest order in the entire medieval world. But here's the twist. The clues aren't in Europe. To get to the truth, we have to head east, to a lost fortress and a secret the Templars may have died to protect. So let's set the scene. The date itself has become legendary for a reason. Friday, October 13th, 1307. In a stunningly coordinated dawn raid all across France, King Philip the Fair had every Knight Templar he could get his hands on arrested. Now, you gotta understand, this wasn't just some rogue group of knights. These guys were the elite of the elite, the world's first international bankers, fearsome warriors, and they answered only to the Pope. So how on earth could they be brought down just like that in a single night? Well, the answer lies in the absolutely wild accusations made against them. I mean, the charges were designed to be as shocking as possible. We're talking heresy, denying Jesus Christ and their secret initiation rites, even spitting on the cross. But the strangest charge, the one that really sealed their fate and captured everyone's imagination, was this claim that they secretly worshipped a mysterious, bearded head, an idol they called Baphomet. What was it? A demon? Some forgotten pagan god? Or could it have been something else entirely? Okay, so to figure out this whole head mystery, we're not going to find the answers in the usual places. The trail runs cold in the Templar strongholds of Paris and Jerusalem. Nope. Instead, it leads us way, way east, to the dusty frontiers of the Crusader world, to a forgotten city that held the key to both the Templars' greatest secret and their eventual destruction. And here we are, the County of Edessa, which is in modern-day Urfa, Turkey. Now, this place was the very first Crusader state ever founded, and as it happens, it was also the first to fall. It's often just a footnote in the history books, but for our story, this lost kingdom was a crucible, a place where the Templars' biggest secrets were forged. So let's get a quick lay of the land. It was founded way back in 1098, but its dreams of expanding east were totally crushed just 6 years later at the Battle of Haran. And by 1144, it was completely wiped off the map. That event was so shocking to the Christian world that it launched the entire Second Crusade. So its history was short, brutal, but, and this is the key, incredibly important. So why was this place such a big deal? Well, you can think of it as the Northern Shield. Edessa was this critical buffer zone. It was the shield that protected the other, wealthier Crusader kingdoms like Antioch and Jerusalem from attacks coming from the east. When that shield broke, bam. The whole Crusader project was suddenly wide open and totally vulnerable. But here's the thing, its real importance for our story wasn't just about battles. It was this incredible mix of people and ideas. You had European Catholic rulers, sure, but they were in charge of this diverse population of Armenian and Syriac Christians, Muslims, and Jews. It became this intellectual free-for-all, a place where ancient Mesopotamian ideas, Christian theology, and Islamic wisdom just collided in ways that would have been unthinkable back in Europe. And this is where the Templars likely stumbled upon two very powerful and very dangerous secrets. Okay, secret number one. It was a physical thing, a relic so holy people believed it was the actual image of Jesus, an image they said was not made by human hands. It was called the Holy Mandylion. So the story goes like this, and you can find it in early church histories. There was a King Abgar of Edessa who was suffering from some incurable disease. He writes a letter to Jesus himself, begging to be healed. Jesus, of course, can't make the trip, but what he does is press his face into a cloth and sends this miraculous image back to the king. And that image, the Mandylion, became the city's divine protector. They believed it made Edessa literally invincible. Okay, now this is where your mind is going to be blown. In a lot of old texts, the Mandylion is called the Tetradiplon, which literally means four-folded. So what happens if you take the famous Shroud of Turin, that huge 4.4-meter-long cloth showing a full body, and you fold it in four? Well, what you're left with is just the face, framed perfectly. The theory is just stunning. The Mandylion was the Turin Shroud, just cleverly folded to hide the full body and only show the face. So here's the crucial link. The Mandylion was eventually taken to Constantinople. It stayed there until 1204, when Crusaders sacked the city, and then, poof, it's gone. For 150 years, there is no historical record of it anywhere. And guess what? This 150-year gap lines up perfectly with the peak of Templar power and influence. The leading theory is that they took it, becoming the secret guardians of Christendom's holiest relic. So, okay, the Templars might have had the holiest object in Christianity, but that's only half the puzzle. The other half, maybe the darker half, is just a short trip down the road from holy Urfa, in its shadow city, the ancient city of Haran. Haran was something else entirely. I mean, for a long time, it was basically the last pagan university on Earth. The people there, the Sabians, were star worshippers, and they preserved all this ancient knowledge from Mesopotamia and Egypt. They were deep into what's known as Hermetic philosophy, this idea that divine wisdom was hidden all around us, in the planets and in metals, just waiting to be unlocked through arts the church considered, completely forbidden. And this chart? It shows you exactly how they saw the world. It's wild. They believed God was unknowable, so you had to approach the divine through the planets. They literally built their city as a map of the heavens. Each planet had its own temple with a unique shape, a sacred metal, and a special color. The temple for Mars was a red rectangle made of iron. The sun's was a golden square. It was sacred geometry on a massive, city-wide scale. So what kind of stuff were they actually studying? Well, this was the forbidden knowledge of the ancient world. Alchemy, not just turning lead into gold, but the spiritual transformation of your soul, astral magic, using talismans and spells to capture the power of the stars. And then there's this, rituals involving necromancy, and get this, using specially prepared talking heads for divination. Remember that detail. It's going to be important. Okay, so we've got our two huge puzzle pieces. A holy bearded face from Urfa, and this weird pagan tradition of using ritual heads from Haran. Let's put them together and see how they lead us straight back to those Templar trials in Paris. Let's jump right back to that Baphomet accusation. Under torture, some of the knights gave these really strange descriptions. They said the head wasn't just an idol. They said it gave them wealth, it made plants grow, made the land fertile. Now, does that really sound like devil worship, or does it sound more like a magical talisman, an object of incredible power? And this right here is the absolute heart of the theory. What if the demonic head the Templars were accused of worshipping was actually the Mandylion, the face of Christ on the folded Shroud of Turin? Think about it. To their accusers, a secret bearded head was proof of heresy, but to the knights themselves, it could have been the secret veneration of the most powerful relic on Earth. And the clues don't even stop there. Think about Templar churches. They built these really distinctive round churches all over Europe. Now, the official story is they're based on the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, but their weird, multi-sided shapes also look a lot like those pagan planetary temples in Haran. Did they bring back more than just a relic? Did they bring back a whole new system of sacred geometry? So when you put all of this together, it completely changes how we see the Templars and their legacy. Their real secret wasn't a physical treasure. It was a treasure of forbidden knowledge. And here's the great irony, the great paradox of it all. The military failure of the Crusades, which really began with the fall of Edessa, might have accidentally sparked an intellectual victory back in Europe. What couldn't be conquered by the sword was instead absorbed as knowledge, and the Templars, as the great travelers and bankers of their day, were perfectly positioned to be the ones to bring it all back home. So that legendary, lost Templar treasure, it probably wasn't chests of gold or even the Holy Grail. The real treasure was knowledge. It was the secrets of alchemy, Hermetic philosophy, sacred geometry, and a much more complex worldview, all smuggled out of that intellectual melting pot on the eastern frontier. This was the kind of stuff that would help light the fuse for the Renaissance. Which brings us to one last big question. Maybe the Templars' ultimate crime wasn't devil worship. Perhaps their real heresy, in the eyes of a greedy king and an inflexible church, was discovering a far more dangerous idea, that truth and wisdom and even a connection to the divine could be found in texts and traditions far beyond the borders of their own faith. And that was a secret worth killing for.